Do-1 stared at the blue planet through the ship's observation window. Earth looked peaceful from space, but he knew better. His team had spent months studying reports about this dangerous world. The oceans could create waves as tall as buildings. The ground would sometimes split open without warning. Even the air could turn into destroying winds that could lift houses. Senior researcher Do-1, the climate readings are ready, Jia-Yun said, walking up to his side. She was the team's expert on weather, and right now, her face showed worry. The planet's temperature changes are extreme. Some places go from very hot to very cold in just one day. Do-1 nodded, his eyes still fixed on Earth. What about the life forms, Tai-Yang? The young xenobiologist looked up from his screens, pushing his glasses back up his nose. It's worse than we thought. There are creatures that can kill with a single bite. Others hunt in groups. Some are so small you can't see them, but they can make you very sick. And that's just on land. The oceans. He shook his head, not finishing his sentence. The three researchers stood in silence, watching the planet spin slowly below them. Their ship, hidden from Earth's detection systems, had been in orbit for a week. They were part of the Galactic Council's first observation team, chosen to study this newly discovered world. But the strangest thing, Tai-Yang continued, is that we keep detecting signs of advanced civilization. There are large cities, complex machines, and energy networks. Something intelligent lives there, surviving somehow. Jia-Yun walked to her station and brought up a map on the main screen. Red dots covered it, showing dangerous areas. Look at this. Active volcanoes here, and here. Tornado zones in these regions. Hurricane paths across these oceans. Earthquake fault lines running under major population centers. How can anything advanced develop in these conditions? Do-1 moved closer to the screen, his face showing deep thought. The Galactic Council had sent them because they were the best at what they did. Each of them had studied dangerous worlds before, but Earth was different. Most deadly planets were dangerous in one or two ways. Earth seemed to have collected every possible danger. Start the detailed scans, Do-1 ordered. Jia-Yun, focus on the weather patterns. Tai-Yang, begin cataloging the dangerous species. I want to know everything about this planet. As his team members went to work, Do-1 received a new alert on his pad. He read it twice, making sure he understood correctly. Team, look at this. Our deep scans just found something interesting. The dominant species on this planet. They call themselves humans. They don't just survive here. They've built cities in deserts. They live next to active volcanoes. They sail ships through storms. That's impossible, Jia-Yun said. Looking at the data, no species would choose to live in such places. Apparently, these humans do, Do-1 replied. He brought up an image on his screen. It showed a human settlement built right on a known earthquake fault line. And there's more. They don't just live in these dangerous places. They study them. They have whole groups of people who run toward disasters instead of away from them. Tai-Yang looked confused. Are they not afraid? That's what we're here to find out, Do-1 said. He typed a command into his console, launching the first wave of observation drones. The Galactic Council wants to know everything about these humans, how they survive, how they think. And most importantly, he paused, looking at his team, whether they're a danger to the rest of the galaxy. The drones descended toward Earth, their cloaking systems active. As Do-1 watched them go, he couldn't shake the feeling that his team was about to discover something unprecedented. The dangers of Earth were obvious, but perhaps the real story wasn't about the planet's deadly nature. Perhaps it was about the beings who had not just survived it, but had made it their home. Begin recording, he said quietly. Day 1 of Earth observation has officially begun. Hyun-Ki sat in the research room of the observation ship, surrounded by screens showing human history. As the team's cultural expert, he had spent weeks studying everything he could find about how humans developed. What he discovered amazed him more each day. Do-1, you need to see this, He called out to his team leader. I've been tracking human exploration patterns throughout their history. It's not what we expected at all. Do-One walked over and looked at the screens. They showed images of ancient human ships sailing into unknown waters, early climbers reaching mountain peaks, and explorers crossing vast deserts. Every time humans found a dangerous place, Hyun-Ki explained, pointing to different images, they didn't try to avoid it. They tried to go there. Look at this mountain. He showed a picture of a tall, snow-covered peak. Humans call it Everest. It's so high that the air is too thin to breathe properly. The cold can kill in minutes, but humans climb it just to prove they can. Jae-Yun joined them, looking at the screens with interest. What about their oceans? Our scans showed they're full of dangerous creatures. Hyun-Ki nodded eagerly. That's even more interesting. Humans built special vessels to go to the deepest parts of their oceans, places where the pressure is so strong it could crush most spacecraft. They went down there just to see what they could find. He switched to another screen showing human space programs. And now they're looking toward the stars. They've already sent their people to their moon. They've put robots on other planets. They're planning missions to reach even further. But why? Do-One asked. Why take such risks? Because it's there, Hyun-Ki said, quoting a famous human explorer. They have this strange drive to push limits, to go places just because no one has gone there before. Look at this. He showed them pictures of human cities in different environments. One in a desert where temperatures reached burning levels, another high in mountains where the air was thin, and a third in a place where winter brought months of darkness. They don't just survive in these places, he continued. They build huge cities there. They create ways to live comfortably in conditions that would kill most species, and then they celebrate their victories. Tae-Yang, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. Show them what you found about their entertainment. Hyun-Ki nodded and changed the screens again. Now they showed humans doing things that made the aliens stare in disbelief. People jumping out of flying vehicles for fun. Others riding giant waves on tiny boards. Some were climbing frozen waterfalls, while others ran through burning hot deserts. They call these activities sports and adventures, Hyun-Ki explained. They do these dangerous things for enjoyment. They even compete to see who can do the most extreme versions. Do-One watched the screens in silence for a long time. Finally, he said, so they don't just face danger when they have to. They seek it out. They challenge it. They turn it into something to conquer. Yes, Hyun-Ki agreed. And here's the most important part. They teach their children to do the same. Look at these schools. He showed images of young humans learning to climb, swim, and survive in wild places. They're not teaching their next generation to fear danger. They're teaching them to face it. As the aliens watched more of human history unfold on the screens, they began to understand something important. Earth hadn't just shaped human bodies to survive its dangers. It had shaped human minds to challenge them. Every natural barrier became a test to overcome. Every deadly environment became a place to explore. Update the report, Do-One said quietly. The humans' greatest strength isn't their ability to survive danger. It's their desire to challenge it. Do-One sat in his private quarters aboard the ship, carefully writing his final report to the Galactic Council. After 3 months of studying Earth and its people, he finally understood what made humans different from every other species in the known galaxy. To the honored members of the Galactic Council, he began typing. I must start this report by admitting we were wrong about Earth and its people. What we thought was their greatest weakness turned out to be their greatest strength. He paused, remembering everything his team had witnessed. He thought about the hurricane response teams they had watched, the rescue workers who ran into danger to save others, and the scientists who studied Earth's most dangerous places. Earth is not just a dangerous world, he continued writing. It is a teacher. Every challenge it presents has taught humans something valuable. The storms taught them to build better buildings. The earthquakes taught them to work together. The volcanoes taught them to understand their world better. Through his window, He could see Earth spinning below. From space, it looked peaceful, but he knew better now. He knew about the powerful forces that shaped both the planet and its people. Humans don't just survive their world's dangers, he wrote. They learn from them. When a disaster strikes one place, humans from everywhere come to help. They share what they learn. They use each failure as a lesson to do better next time. Most importantly, they teach these lessons to their children. Do-Won thought about the human children he had seen in schools. They learned about their world's dangers not to fear them, but to understand them. They practiced safety drills calmly, knowing what to do in emergencies. What makes humans truly remarkable is not their technology or their buildings. It's their attitude toward challenges. Where other species see danger, humans see opportunity. Where others would run away, humans move closer to learn more. They've turned their survival instincts into scientific curiosity. He remembered the conversation he had with Yoon Seo, the emergency response leader who had helped rescue Minna. She had said something important, that being afraid was good, but what you did despite being afraid was what mattered. The council must understand this about humans, he wrote. They are not reckless. They don't ignore dangers. Instead, they study them, prepare for them, and face them together. Their greatest achievement isn't surviving Earth's dangers. It's turning those dangers into steps toward progress. Do-Won added details about human space programs, deep-sea exploration, and mountain climbing. He explained how humans used Earth's harsh conditions to prepare for exploring other worlds. In conclusion, he wrote, I must warn the Council about two things. First, never underestimate humans. The very forces that we thought would keep them trapped on their world have instead prepared them to explore the galaxy. Second, and more importantly, consider them as potential allies. He thought carefully about his final words. They needed to be exactly right. Earth's dangers didn't make humans weak. They made them resourceful. They didn't make humans fearful. They made them brave. They didn't make humans selfish. They made them cooperative. Any species that thinks humans will be easy to defeat should remember this. Everything that might kill them has already tried. And humans are still here, still learning, still pushing forward. Do-Won sent the report, knowing it would change how the galaxy viewed humans forever. As he looked at Earth one last time, he smiled. The planet that everyone thought was too dangerous for advanced life hadn't just produced a surviving species. It had created an extraordinary one. Sunmai was monitoring a small coastal town when the ground began to shake. At first, she thought something was wrong with her equipment. But the readings were clear. A major earthquake was starting. Emergency alert. She called out to the observation team. Earthquake detected, magnitude 7.8. It's hitting the coast right now. Do-Won and the others rushed to her station. On the screens, they watched as the ground moved like water. Buildings swayed. Roads cracked. The ocean pulled back from the shore, a sign that something worse was coming. Tsunami warning, Jae-Yun announced, her voice tense. The earthquake has created a massive wave. It will hit the coast in less than 30 minutes. Through their hidden cameras, they watched the scene unfold. The aliens expected panic and chaos. Instead, they saw something very different. Sirens started wailing in the town. But instead of running away in fear, many humans began running toward the damaged areas. They wore special clothes with bright colors and carried equipment. What are they doing? Sunmai asked, zooming in on one group. The ground is still shaking. More buildings could fall. Why are they going closer to the danger? They watched as humans in uniforms quickly organized themselves into teams. Some went into damaged buildings, looking for people trapped inside. Others set up medical areas to help the injured. More humans arrived in large vehicles filled with supplies and rescue equipment. Look at their faces, Tai Yang said quietly. They're not panicking. They've trained for this. They're following a plan. The screen showed humans working together smoothly. They used tools to lift heavy pieces of fallen buildings. They helped injured people to safety. They even rescued animals trapped in the wreckage. The tsunami is coming, Jae-yun reminded them. They have 20 minutes left. But the humans already knew. They were moving people to higher ground, helping those who couldn't walk. They carried children, supported elderly people, and made sure no one was left behind. Their communication system is impressive, Do-won noted. They're coordinating between different teams, sharing information about damaged areas and people who need help. The giant wave hit the coast with tremendous force. But thanks to the warning system and the quick action of the emergency teams, most people were already safe. As soon as the water began to pull back, the rescue teams went back to work. Sun-Mei couldn't believe what she was seeing. They're going into flooded buildings now, she reported. The aftershocks haven't even stopped, but they're still searching for survivors. Through the night, the humans kept working. When some rescue teams got tired, others took their place. They'd brought in lights to see in the darkness. They used dogs to find people trapped under rubble. They didn't stop even when rain started falling. I think I understand now, Sun-Mei said softly after hours of watching. We thought Earth's dangers would make humans weak and fearful. But instead, these dangers made them strong and brave. They learned to work together. They learned to help each other. Do-won nodded slowly. This is why the Galactic Council needs to understand humans better. They don't just survive disasters. They face them head-on. They risk their own lives to save others. That kind of behavior, he paused, choosing his words carefully, that kind of behavior could make them very dangerous enemies or very powerful friends. As the sun rose the next morning, the rescue work was still going on. The aliens watched as more help arrived from other towns and cities. Humans were already starting to clean up and rebuild, even as emergency teams continued searching for survivors. Add this to the report, Do-won ordered. Humans don't run from disaster. They run toward it, and that makes them unlike any species we've ever encountered. 2 weeks after the beach incident, Taiyang found himself in an unusual place, a human science laboratory. The government had arranged for the alien research team to work with Earth scientists, sharing knowledge and understanding each other's worlds. You really built this submarine to go to the deepest part of the ocean? Taiyang asked, looking at the plans spread out on the table. The human engineer next to him nodded proudly. Yes, and we're planning to go even deeper next time, she explained. There are so many undiscovered species down there. So many mysteries to solve. Taiyang shook his head in amazement. But the pressure at that depth could crush your strongest metals. How do you handle the fear? The engineer smiled. We respect the danger, but we don't let it stop us. Every safety system has a backup. Every risk has a solution. That's how humans work. We plan, we prepare, and then we go forward. Across the room, Jae-yun was talking with weather scientists about Earth's storms. They showed her their warning systems, their tracking satellites, and their emergency plans. But what surprised her most was a group of people called storm chasers. You drive towards tornadoes, she asked, not sure she had heard correctly. On purpose. Of course, one scientist answered. The closer we get, the more we learn. The more we learn, the better we can predict them. The better we predict them, the more lives we can save. Meanwhile, Do-won was meeting with emergency response teams from around the world. They shared their experiences dealing with earthquakes, floods, and other disasters. He noticed how they talked about these dangerous events, not with fear, but with determination to be better prepared next time. Your world is constantly trying to kill you, Do-won said during one meeting. How do you stay so hopeful? The emergency coordinator thought for a moment. Maybe because Earth's dangers taught us something important. They taught us that we're all in this together. When a tsunami hits one country, other countries send help. When an earthquake strikes a city, people come from everywhere to assist. Earth's dangers don't divide us. They unite us. The aliens learned something new every day. They saw human children in schools, learning about their world's dangers not to fear them, but to understand them. They watched as humans turned their challenges into opportunities for growth. "Look at this," Tai Yang said one evening, showing Du-1 a video of human space training. "They're using the harsh conditions they grew up with to prepare for space exploration. They train in deserts to practice living on Mars. They use deep ocean pressures to understand space conditions." Do-1 nodded slowly. They're not just survivors, he realized. They're pioneers. Every danger they face becomes a lesson they use to go further. The most surprising thing they discovered was how humans helped each other learn. Experienced climbers taught newcomers how to handle mountain dangers. Veteran firefighters trained young recruits to face their fears. Parents taught children how to swim, how to handle emergencies, how to be brave while staying safe. "We were wrong about them," Minna said during their evening meeting. "We thought Earth's dangers made humans weak. Instead, these challenges made them innovative, cooperative, and determined. They don't just endure their world. They embrace it, learn from it, and use those lessons to grow stronger." Yoon Seo had seen many strange things during her years as an emergency response leader, but nothing like this. The call had come in about an unusual aircraft crash on the beach. Now she stood looking at something that clearly wasn't from Earth. "Keep everyone back," she ordered her team, watching as more emergency vehicles arrived. The crashed vehicle looked almost like a silver egg, smooth and otherworldly in the morning light. She could see someone moving inside. Then, incredibly, a much larger ship appeared in the sky above them. It seemed to fade into view like a ghost becoming solid. Yoon Seo's team stared in amazement, but they stayed at their posts. They had trained for emergencies of all kinds, even if no one had ever expected this one. The larger ship landed carefully on the beach. A door opened, and several figures stepped out. They looked almost human, but not quite. They moved cautiously, their hands raised to show they meant no harm. "Hello," one of them called out in perfect Korean. "I am Do-1. We need your help. Our team member is trapped in the damaged pod." Yoon Seo took a deep breath and stepped forward. This was still an emergency, she told herself. And in any emergency, helping people came first. "I'm Yoon Seo," she said clearly. "I'm in charge of emergency response here. Tell me what you need." Do-1 seemed surprised by how calmly she was taking this. "Our pod's door is jammed. The emergency release isn't working, and our team member, Minna, might be hurt." Yoon Seo nodded and turned to her team. They were already moving forward with their rescue equipment, as if this was just another day at work. "We'll get her out," she said simply. The aliens watched in amazement as the human rescue team went to work. They cut through the pod's metal shell with tools designed for car accidents. They carefully made an opening, talking to Minna the whole time to keep her calm. Within minutes, they had her safely out. As the medical team checked Minna for injuries, Do-1 turned to Yoon Seo. "You're not afraid of us," he said. It wasn't a question. Yoon Seo smiled slightly. "We've been trained to handle emergencies. Any emergency. When someone needs help, it doesn't matter where they're from." She looked at his team. "Though I admit, this is the first time we've rescued someone from another planet." The other emergency workers were setting up a safety perimeter, directing traffic away from the area, and keeping curious onlookers at a distance. Everything was organized, professional, and calm. "We've been studying your world," Do-1 admitted. "We thought Earth was too dangerous for advanced life. The storms, the earthquakes, the volcanoes, those things are dangerous," Yoon Seo agreed. "But they taught us something important. They taught us that we're stronger when we work together. That helping each other is how we survive." She pointed to her team, still working to secure the area. "See that firefighter? Last month, she ran into a burning building to save a child. The paramedic next to her, he once climbed down a cliff in the middle of a storm to help an injured hiker. We do these things not because we're not afraid, but because helping others is more important than fear. Do-Won looked at his own team members. They had broken their most important rule today, choosing to help their friend instead of maintaining secrecy. Perhaps they were learning something from humans after all. Your world still scares us, he said honestly. Yoon Seo laughed. Good. A little fear keeps you smart. But it's what you do despite being afraid that matters. Hey Newell sat in the drone control room, his eyes wide as he watched the screens in front of him. Today's observation target was a place humans called Death Valley, a name that made perfect sense to him. The temperature readings from his drones showed numbers that would kill most species in the galaxy. The ground temperature is hot enough to cook food, he reported to Do-Won, who stood behind him watching the feeds. But there are humans down there. They're not just passing through. They're studying the valley. Through the drone's cameras, they watched a group of human scientists setting up equipment in the burning heat. The humans wore special suits to protect themselves, but they worked steadily, taking samples and making notes. Switch to Drone Team 2, Do-Won ordered. What's happening in the mountain region? Hanul changed the view to another set of drones. These were watching humans climbing up a frozen mountain peak. The wind was howling, and the temperature was far below freezing. Yet the humans kept going up, step by step. I don't understand, Hanul said, shaking his head. In the valley, it's hot enough to kill. On the mountain, it's cold enough to freeze. How can the same species handle both extremes? Do-Won was about to answer when Jae-Yun rushed into the control room. You need to see this, she said, quickly typing commands into a nearby console. A new video feed appeared on the main screen. It showed humans in bright orange suits walking on black rock. In the background, red-hot lava flowed from an active volcano. They're collecting samples, Jae-Yun explained, from an active volcano, while it's erupting. The three aliens watched in silence as the humans worked near the deadly lava flow. They moved carefully but showed no sign of panic. They even stopped occasionally to take pictures, as if standing near liquid rock was perfectly normal. Check the ocean team, Do-Won said quietly. Hanul switched to the underwater drones. Deep beneath the waves, human machines were exploring the darkest parts of their oceans. The pressure at that depth would crush most spacecraft, yet humans had built vessels that could survive it. They're everywhere, Hanul said, flicking through more drone feeds. In the coldest places, the hottest places, the most dangerous places. Anywhere we think they couldn't possibly go, they're already there. A new alert caught their attention. One of the drones had found humans preparing to enter a cave system. The sensors showed the caves were deep, dark, and filled with dangerous gases. The humans were putting on safety gear and checking their equipment. Remember what we first thought? Jae-Yun asked. We thought Earth was too dangerous for advanced life to develop. But now I'm wondering if it's the opposite. Maybe Earth's dangers forced humans to become advanced. They had to become smart to survive. Do-Won nodded slowly. Send more drones to the populated areas. I want to see how they live in their cities. Do they show the same fearlessness there? As Hanul directed the drones toward human cities, they saw more surprising things. Humans built towering buildings in places where earthquakes were common. They made homes in areas where tornadoes happened often. They built cities in deserts and in frozen lands. There's something we're missing, Do-Won said finally. Other species adapt to their environments or leave for safer places. But humans adapt their environments to themselves. They don't just survive the dangers. They challenge them. Hanul looked at the screens again, watching humans go about their lives in places his own people would never dare to live. Should we be worried about that? He asked quietly. Do-Won didn't answer right away. He watched as the humans near the volcano packed up their samples, laughing and talking as if they weren't standing next to one of the most dangerous forces in nature. Perhaps, he said finally, we should be. Minna checked her small research pod one more time before starting her descent toward Earth. The team needed closer readings of a strange weather pattern forming over the Pacific Ocean. The pod's cloaking system would keep her hidden from human detection while she gathered data. Remember, Do-Won's voice came through her communication system. Stay above the cloud layer. We can't risk being seen. Understood, Minna replied, guiding her pod down through Earth's upper atmosphere. She had done this kind of mission many times before on other worlds. But Earth was different. Its weather systems were more powerful, more unpredictable. At first, everything went according to plan. Minna's instruments collected data about wind patterns and temperature changes. But then something went wrong. Her pod started shaking as it hit an unexpected air current. "Control, I'm experiencing some turbulence," she reported, trying to steady her craft. "The winds are much stronger than our readings showed." Do-Won watched from the main ship as Minna's pod was caught in the powerful air current. "Pull up," he ordered. "Return to the ship immediately." But it was too late. A massive updraft grabbed the small pod, pulling it deeper into the storm. Warning lights flashed across Minna's control panel. The cloaking system was failing. "I've lost control." Minna's voice crackled through the static. "The storm, it's too strong." The observation team watched in horror as Minna's pod was thrown around by the storm. Her emergency systems were working, but they weren't designed for Earth's powerful weather. The pod began dropping toward the ocean. "Engine failure," Minna reported, her voice steady despite the danger. "I'm going to have to land." "I'm sorry, Do-Won. I can't keep the pod hidden anymore." Do-Won faced the hardest decision of his career. Their mission rules were clear. Absolute secrecy had to be maintained. No contact with humans was allowed under any circumstances. But Minna's life was in danger. "Listen carefully," he said into the communication system. "There's a small island nearby. Try to reach it. We'll find a way to help you." The team watched as Minna guided her failing pod toward the tiny island. The landing was rough. The pod skidded across the beach and came to rest near some trees. Minna was alive, but she was stranded on Earth's surface. "Control, I'm okay," she reported. "But the pod is damaged. I can't take off again." She paused, then added, "And I see lights approaching. I think humans are coming to investigate." Do-Won looked at his team members. They all knew what this meant. Their mission was about to change completely. They could either maintain their secrecy and leave Minna to face unknown dangers alone, or they could break their most important rule and reveal themselves to the humans. "The humans we've been watching," Jae-yun said quietly. "They always help people in trouble, even strangers, even when it's dangerous." Do-Won nodded slowly. He had made his decision. "Minna, stay where you are. Help is coming." He turned to his team. "Prepare for emergency landing procedures. We're going to do something no observation team has ever done before. We're going to ask humans for help." Taiyang realized. "Yes," Do-Won replied. "And may the Galactic Council forgive us for what we're about to do." 3 weeks into their mission, Jae-yun couldn't believe what she was seeing on her weather monitors. A massive storm system was forming over the Pacific Ocean, bigger than any they had observed so far. The swirling clouds created a pattern that looked like a giant white spiral from space. "Do-Won, you need to see this," she called out, her voice tight with concern. "This storm system, the humans call it a hurricane. It's heading straight for their coastal cities." Do-Won moved quickly to her station, followed by Taiyang. The 3 researchers watched as the storm grew stronger by the hour. Wind speeds were reaching levels that would tear apart buildings on most civilized worlds. "Surely they'll evacuate," Taiyang said, checking the population readings in the storm's path. No one would stay in the way of something like this. But as they watched, something unexpected happened. The humans weren't running away in panic. Instead, their instruments showed organized movement. Some people were leaving the area, yes, but many were staying. And those who stayed were preparing. "Look at this," Do-Won said, Zooming in on one coastal city, they're putting up barriers, strengthening buildings, setting up emergency centers. He shook his head in amazement. They're not just reacting to the storm. They knew it was coming. They predicted it. Jai-yun pulled up more data on her screen. That's not all. They have special buildings designed to withstand these storms, and teams of people ready to help others. They've been living with these storms for generations. They've learned to fight back against them. The hurricane made landfall the next day. The alien team watched through their monitoring devices as the storm battered the coast. Trees bent in the fierce winds. Roads disappeared under flood waters. Lightning lit up the dark sky. But the humans surprised them again. Emergency teams moved through the dangerous conditions, helping those in need. When buildings were damaged, humans worked together to repair them, even while the storms still rage. They had machines that could move through deep water, boats that could handle giant waves, and vehicles that could drive through strong winds. This isn't just survival, Tai Yang said quietly. This is mastery. They've turned dealing with disasters into a science. Do-won nodded, making notes in his report. The Galactic Council needs to understand this. These humans, they don't just endure their world's dangers. They study them, learn from them, use that knowledge to become stronger. As the storm began to weaken, they saw something else that amazed them. Humans were already starting to rebuild. They didn't wait for all the danger to pass. They worked in the rain, in the wind, pushing back against nature's fury step by step. Send a probe to the surface, Do-won ordered. I want a closer look at their emergency response systems. The small probe descended through the clouds, its cloaking system hiding it from human detection. Through its cameras, they watched as humans helped their neighbors clean up debris, shared food and water, and began fixing their damaged homes. In all my years of research, Jai-yun said, I've never seen anything like this. Most species would be traumatized by such destruction. But these humans, they almost seem energized by it. Like each disaster makes them more determined to succeed. Do-won was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally, he spoke. Update the mission parameters. We're not just studying their survival methods anymore. We need to understand their mindset. What makes them different from every other species we've encountered? As they continued watching, more emergency vehicles arrived in the damaged areas. The humans worked through the night, their lights pushing back the darkness. They didn't look defeated. They looked determined. Maybe, Tai Yang suggested, it's not that they've learned to live with disasters. Maybe disasters help them learn how to live.